It is time to help you claim balance. I am so happy you're here. Welcome to the Balancing Busy podcast. I'm Leah Remillet, and today we are going to be talking about balance with technology, and especially in helping our kids. I am so excited for today's guest, Andrea Davis, who is a former secondary ed teacher turned screen time navigator. She is the founder of Better Screen Time, where she shares family-tested ideas from the tech trenches as a mom of 5. She is on a mission to help parents worry less about tech and connect more with their kids. You are going to feel that as soon as we jump in to this episode. It is so good with so many juicy tidbits, so much to help you navigate screen time, social media, phones, all of it with raising our kids and helping them to just feel great. We all see all the media, everything around us all the time talking about the influence, the effects, what social media and cell phones and all of this is doing to our kids. But it can be hard to figure out what we do to combat it as parents. So this conversation is going to give you tools and strategies to help you know how to help your kids and how to just give them the peace, the happiness, and the ability to self-regulate when it comes to screens. So let's jump in and talk with Andrea. Welcome, Andrea. I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Lee. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so you have built your entire business around better screen time, better understanding of how to utilize our phones. And I want to just jump in because one of the things that you talk about right off the bat is that we have to start with ourselves. And I want to ask you, where did this all come from? Was this from your own personal experience that this all built out? Was it what you were seeing? Where did this just mission to share this message even start?
I think really it started many years ago when I became a mom, and my oldest was just a couple of years old, and I was thinking about what I wanted for her. And my husband was in grad school, and I had a great friend there who was an amazing reader. And I just asked her one day, I said, Rachel, what did your parents do to instill this love of reading? I mean, I love reading, but she took it to a whole nother level. And she said, oh, well, we didn't have a TV growing up. And I was like, really? And so I just got curious, and I asked my husband, I said, what would you think if we put the TV in the closet and we just use it like an appliance and we pull it out for family movie night and whatever? And he's not really into sports. I know this wouldn't sell in every home, but it worked in ours. And he was like, sure. So that was kind of a little mini experiment that has lasted many, many years since. Let's see, 17 years later. And so for a long time, we really were a low-tech family. I felt like we were trying to prioritize in-person connection and learning skills and all those things that we want for our kids. But fast forward, years later, and we moved across the country from Illinois to Oregon, where we now live. And our oldest was turning 12 at the time. And she is like the ultimate responsible child, the kind of kid that cleans her room without being asked. And we handed over an abandoned smartphone to her, and just again thinking she can keep in touch with these friends that she left behind in middle school, and we'll be able to get in touch with her in this place where we don't know anyone. And it didn't take long for us to realize that it was too much too soon. And so we had to backtrack to a brick phone, which at the time was really all that was available. And I mean, this really was the Wild West days of the smartphones. Apple Screen Time didn't even exist, right? So it was painful. It was a really painful experience for her and for us. But I always say it was one of the smartest things that we ever did as parents. And at that point in time, I realized that parents needed more direction and help, especially if coming from this low-tech perspective and framework, had made this mistake. I thought, more parents need this. And my background is in secondary education. So I have a lot of background knowledge about adolescent development, and could just see that we were pushing technology too quickly and we needed to slow things down. And so that really was why I started Better Screen Time.
I love that. My experience with recognizing and realizing that this was a conversation that we needed to have so much more came almost accidental also. Like, I'm not saying that either of ours were accidental, but we both thought, oh, I have a pretty good handle on these things. And so mine came from years ago. I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You and I were talking about that beforehand. There was this challenge to take a 10-day break from fake. I, at the time, worked with the youth, and I thought, you know what? If they have to do it, I can do it too. I'm going to show them, like, camaraderie. I'm here with you. And so I'm going to take this 10-day break from fake with them. And I remember specifically thinking, like, I don't even really use social media that much. I mean, I only use it for my business. I'm not a scroller. I don't go on to see what other people are doing. And honestly, not because I'm so great, but because when Facebook first came out, you didn't have Facebook business pages at the beginning. Anyone who wanted to follow your business had to like you and be your friend. So I have thousands of friends who honestly I have no idea who they are. I don't know them because that was the original way Facebook was set up. And so I didn't have that desire to scroll because they weren't even people I knew anyways.
Yeah.
So I had never really gotten into the whole scroll thing. And I took this 10-day break and I was shocked that I felt more productive, more creative, happier. I mean, just an onslaught of things where I'm like, and I'm a grown-up. I'm supposed to be able to handle this stuff. So then I was telling a girlfriend about it who is a big influencer, and we were talking about it, and I was telling her what I had done, and she's like, gosh, that sounds really cool. I think I might try it. I'm going to just try taking a break. And so she took a break, and she comes back, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've created so much. She's this amazing artist. And she's like, I have created so much art. I've had so many things of inspiration. You know, she was talking about how, her name is Valerie McKeon. And she was talking about how she would she would be doing something beautiful and creative, and she'd have this moment where she'd be like, oh, I got to make the stories about it. I got to post. I got to show the background. And then she would remember, wait, no, you don't, because you're on a break. And she would just feel so liberated and free. And so then the two of us, we were like, okay, if we're both feeling this, other women have got to feel this. So we decided, I mean, this is years ago now, but we put out to all of our email lists and followers, we're like, hey, we did this thing. It was really cool. Do you want to try it? And so we got hundreds and hundreds of women to commit to do this. And we just created a simple form. And every day we had them complete it about their experience. And it was so fascinating because when we took all the data, we realized it took 4.5 days for the average, and these are like highly successful, highly educated women. It took an average of 4.5 days before they stopped without even thinking, going to their phone and pressing the Instagram or the Facebook or, you know, whatever their favorite one was, that they were doing it, and they'd go to press it and realize, oh, it's not there. Like, it wasn't even a conscious decision. So you take all of that and you think, okay, if that's us as the fully developed brain adults that we are, then of course our kids need a lot of guidance, a lot of help. We need a better solutions. And that's why I'm so excited to be talking to you. So will you kind of tell me, like, where do we even start with all of this?
Yeah, I think it really starts with creating a family tech plan with your kids. And the reason why I say that is because I think we'll do things as parents and as mothers for our kids that sometimes we wouldn't be motivated to do otherwise. And I know for us, like in my family, when I realized we needed to backtrack and make a plan because technology had changed and our kids had grown up, we sat down and we talked about, you know, where are we going to use screens? What are we going to do on them? When are we going to use them, and for how long? Like, that's kind of our framework for our family tech plan. And so we hit that first one, like, where are we using screens? And I had since, after having these bad experiences, done a lot of research and started reading and knew that we needed to get screens out of the bedrooms and the bathrooms. So that was like my first proposal as we sat down with the kids. And, you know, obviously one of the first things they said was, but Mom, you take your screen into the bedroom or the bathroom. And I was like, oh, you're right. And so that was one of my first commitments to my kids, was to take my laptop and my phone out of my bedroom and bathroom. And, that can feel hard if you're used to doing that. And it was. So I worked for other people from home. I would take my laptop into my bed, work on my bed. And I realized, oh yeah, this is like wreaking havoc on my sleep, on my posture, on my interaction or relationship with my husband. And so I committed to the kids then that I wouldn't take my phone into the bedroom or the bathroom. And that's been over 5 years now. And I will say that what sometimes will start for us as a commitment to our kids, once we start to reap the benefits and we experience those rewards, then we start to move into the realm of wanting to do it for even more reasons, right? And I think when we experience it, then we're motivated on a lot of levels, right? And so I think, this could look different for every parent out there, but we all have something about our tech use that could change. I think if we sit down with our family, we kind of are honest with ourselves about what we could change, committing to those kids, it's a really good place to start, because they'll help you be accountable.
Oh, there's no question. They will for sure help you be accountable. Okay, so the first thing I'm hearing is you are suggesting that what we're asking the kids to do, we should also be willing to do.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of just benefit in that. And I know I get pushback sometimes from parents where
I'm hearing it already, right? Like,
yeah, I'm the parent. And I'm like, great, I'm glad you're the parent. And there are certainly things that we will do as parents that maybe the kids won't do and that they aren't allowed. But I think if we truly want to have change, we have to model and be the change we want to see. And again, every situation's different. We've got, first responders and ER doctors and people that it's not going to work for them to take their phone out of their bedroom. But to be realistic, most of us can. And even if you can't take it out of your room, you can have a bedtime for it. You can keep it out of reach and have a place to put it, a charging station or somewhere where it gets put every night. And I think that's really helpful. So again, as a parent, you don't have to do anything, but do you really want to see that change? That's the best way. Because then too, you can share the benefits with your kids. And what motivates people more than sharing the why, right? It's like back to Simon Sinek, start with why.
Right. And it makes it so much easier to have this open dialogue, right? I mean, how much easier is it to have a conversation with the kids when you say, hey, I'll do it too. I mean, that's how my whole journey started was, okay, if you're being asked to take a 10-day break, I'll do it with you. I'll show you I'm in this with you. And the most surprising thing about that for me was that I thought I was just doing this on their behalf. And I had no idea how much I needed it myself. And I was shocked by that, right? I was I thought I had such a handle on it. So I love this idea of being able to encourage and suggest doing it with our kids. And maybe, for some who are having some real resistance right now and feeling like, okay, but you don't understand, I'm running my business or whatever that might look like, that they could even just offer to do it temporarily to get things going. One of the conversations that I've thought about a lot in my mind. So I did an episode just a few week's back. It's longer by the time this goes live, but it's episode 96 and 97. So if anybody wants to go to 96.balancingbusypodcast.com, they can find that episode. And I shared our entire process with phones and social media with our kids. And one of my concerns as I recorded that episode was, if you're pre-phones, then this episode is going to be really great, right? Because you get to hear how somebody else did it. And you get to hear we didn't give them phones till 14. We didn't introduce social media till 16. Social media has never been on their phone. Their social media account is actually on my phone. They have to ask permission to even go look. When they become a senior, it transitions to them because I'm recognizing I do want them to be able to self-regulate, but they're not ready yet. And so here's how, we're doing this in phases. However, if you are that parent where you're listening to that and you're like, okay, but I already gave my kiddo the phone. I already see the problems. I'm already in too deep. And exactly what you're saying, like now I'm seeing this backpedal, but I know that the conflict, the fight, the resistance is going to be so strong at this point. And I was so worried about that when, in fact, I sat on the episode for months and didn't publish it because I was so worried about that. And one of the things that I'm loving just in the first few minutes of this conversation with you is that I'm realizing if a parent is there, they can sit down and say, I'm seeing something. I'm seeing this problem. And I don't think you're very happy or that you're feeling very good. And I want more for you. And I want to suggest that we do an experiment. I think we all accept things easier when it appears to start as a limited time. Now, you might in your mind be like, this is going to stay forever. But we don't need to present forever as the first initial phase because you can understand we all are going to cling and hold on to. We don't want to lose something. So I love this idea of like, oh, we could start as an experiment and we're going to do it together. Let's both try for 1 week to remove, to only have no phones in our rooms or the bathroom. We're going to have the charging station. Ours is on the island, in the kitchen, right there. We're going to try this and we're going to take off social media and let's see how we feel. And the fact that there's that camaraderie, like I'm going to do this with you. And then it gives you this wonderful opportunity to have that open dialogue. Anything you would suggest, change, do to that differently?
No, I love that. I think that approach is most effective with older teens because they are at a point where they do need to have some choice and some skin in the game. With younger kids, I do really think if things have gone too far and, you just know in your gut that it's not right, then I think as a parent, you just have to say, this is what we're doing, that was the case with my daughter at that time. However, I certainly think with things that maybe are just, they're not really red flags, but you're just starting to feel like, hey, we're getting a little off track. I think that's a perfect approach. Or with an older teen who really is only going to be in your house for maybe another year or so. And you notice and you can tell that things are off track, but they're maybe not in a place where you can just take everything away and they need to start learning. Then I think experimenting with them is perfect. And I love that.
I love that you pointed that out because in my mind, I was thinking like that older teen, right? Where they've had it for a while and they feel so, it's a security blanket, right? Let's just call it what it is. It could be at the level of addiction. And so when you're trying to suggest taking it away, it's instantly creating fear and anxiety and deep, deep stress, and they're going to resist. So, this opportunity to maybe present it in an experimental, shorter period of time. We're in this together. Let's just see. So it doesn't have to feel so scary. But I agree, when we're talking about our younger kids, we're not meant to be their favorite person all the time.
Yep.
Hopefully in time they're going to decide that we're their favorite. But I can tell you there are moments when I am not my kid's favorite person because
for sure.
I'm willing to be the bad guy. And when they're telling me, I'm saying, you're right. I get it, but it's because I love you so much. And I'm willing to have you mad at me right now because my job is to protect you and to do what I believe is best. And here's why I think we need to do this. So yes, absolutely.
I just want to mention if with an older teen, if you are seeing some real red flags, then there certainly can be a time when maybe we do need to say goodbye to some certain aspects of tech and we need to maybe involve a therapist and get some outside help. And even I've coached parents with, let's say even college age students who hadn't really had a phone prior to leaving home and then suddenly got access to everything and really just couldn't handle it. I've been like, hey, get them on a starter phone, put them on a Pinwheel or a Gab or a True Me phone and just see if they'll go along with that. And I find that when there's a good relationship between the parent and the child, and the parent really comes from a place of, hey, I want to help you, and the child can see that things have gotten out of control, then that can be like a good, like, let's work through this together. So really, you know, knowing your child and knowing the situation, because if they are interacting or dealing with something dangerous, then certainly you want to take action right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And speaking of Gab phones, so after my episodes aired, I had a friend send me a message and say, hey, I have to tell you about this experience with the Gab phone. So they had gotten their daughter a Gab phone. And for those of you guys who have not heard of that, it's just like a dumbed down phone with a lot of restrictions and different things to make the parent very aware of what is happening on the phone. Well, they didn't know too much about the phone. Mom had done a lot of research. Dad didn't really know anything. And they're starting off with this phone, and all of a sudden an alert comes on Mom and Dad's phones. They get an alert that comes on that says, your child may have just been shown inappropriate images. Their phone has been shut down. And basically, the daughter could not use the phone until they came and looked. So they immediately come in and they're like, what are you doing? What's happening? Right? Like, all the fears are coming out. And it was nothing. It was so pure. It was just, oh, I can't remember what she told me it was. It was so cute. It was like, it wasn't a thing at all. But because there was like a little more skin showing, which it wasn't for anything negative. Gosh, I feel bad that I cannot remember what it was right now.
Yeah.
It did this alert, and they were just so impressed and excited. Now, I do think it's really important to realize, like, kids are really smart. We can't just trust restrictions. They will get around them. So we need to be having like the real conversations, and making sure that dialogue is happening. But for anyone who's trying to figure out where to start, definitely look into these Gab phones, because that was really cool hearing her experience. They didn't exist when our kids were young enough and we were first starting, so that wasn't even an option for us. But hearing that, I thought that was really cool. So, okay, so I wanted to ask you, as we were having this conversation, one of the ideas that came to me, and I just wanted to get your feedback, was, do we do this in phases? Like, depending on the age of our kids. Now, obviously, if our kids, if we're starting them with phones, then we can do it all at once. We can explain it all. We can do a phone contract. We can, talk to their friends' parents and be like, let's all be in this together. Let's hold off on cell phones. We can, set the rules at the very beginning. But if we are in a stage where we're needing to do some backtracking, would you suggest maybe introducing the different things that you're going to do in phases? Like, okay, we're going to start by no more phones in the bedroom and bathroom. Then we're going to add this. Or do you think, no, it's better to just Band-Aid style, make it happen?
No, I think phases are good. And I think especially if you are dealing with older teens, we want to give them as much choice as possible. But I think starting with almost looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you're looking at, what do we need to be a healthy, happy human being, and starting with those first basic needs. So if, for example, the phone is interfering with sleep, and you've got a teenager that's on a device, at all hours during the night, like, that would be the first place where I would start is, again, getting the device out of the bedroom, having a bedtime, because that aspect, just our health, affects everything else in our lives. Like, we know that as parents, when we don't get a lot of sleep when we had newborns, like, you're just not yourself, right? And so we've got kids walking around. I hear from school counselors all the time that tell me, I've got kids in the office who are like, well, I'm just really tired. And they find out they're up playing video games till 3 a.m, every night. And there's no way that can't not affect the rest of your life, your schoolwork, your relationships. And so yes, take it in phases, but also, like, you want to start with the things that are going to produce the most amount of change. And so that would be like anything that just kind of relates to health and relationships. And then, going from there for sure.
I love that. Okay, that's so good. I have been loving this conversation. I believe that it is so critical and important that we as moms and parents have these conversations more often with more people and raise our awareness together. Now we're going to take a break. We're going to jump into the next episode. I just broke this interview in half, and we're going to shift and we're going to talk about us as women with social media and our phones. And the honest truth is, if we want to teach our kids, we've got a model in it. Now, I know, you might be thinking, I'm using it for my business, or I want to put my head in the sand. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to think about what problems I might have. But I'm telling you, it is powerful when we get control over something that could be hindering our progress in other areas of our life. So go ahead, jump into the next episode. I cannot wait for you to hear this next half. It is so good.